So according to the instructions, the next thing after we've done this is we're going to look at some of the settings. We're going to look at what's being done. So if we click on project here, and here we get to a list of, if you're familiar with how Word and Excel work now, this left-hand tab takes you to some sort of background settings and stuff like that. If we look at the portals, what does that mean? This is where it's downloading data from online sources. Licensing we will get back to at some point because we will need to activate certain licenses. Options, if we click here, we then get up this options window, and this gives us the current settings. This project, what's happened here. The name of the exercise is exercise 1. The location of the project is our H document folder, SBG051, and then we have this folder now called exercise 1, and then we have something called exercise1.aprx, and that's our project folder. That is a set of instructions that this program will read, and then it says, oh, I'll go and get that file, and do this with them. Home folder, that is the project folder, and then default geodatabase. So also with the same name, this time ending in GDB, the geodatabase. This is where data will be stored. Data that you create will be stored in this database, which is part of the project. So GDB, geodatabase. APRX is a project, and then we have down the bottom here, in the same location, a toolbox, TBX toolbox. This we will use at a later date. We're not going to use the toolbox today in this project, but in a later exercise we will start creating some tools. So that's what the program says we have. If we then go to the Explorer window and look here, now we can see, yep, we have this folder, this exercise 1 folder, and we can see that we have this TBX, the toolbox that we're not going to be using. We have the project here, and then here we have this GDB, which for some reason gets a folder symbol rather than its own special little icon. Doesn't matter. Plus 2 other folders that the program, that ArcGIS didn't tell us about. Fine, okay. Well, we'll close that down and we'll click on that arrow up there and we'll go back and look here. Now I have these tabs on the side here because I've used this program before. What I want you to do is to click on View and then Catalog pane. And that will open this catalog pane. And you'll see these icons up here, and you'll want to use this pin here to hide, auto-hide this pane, to tab it sort of onto the side. So it's always available for you on the side here. There are a couple of others there that can be useful. We'll come to those later. But for catalog, View, catalog pane, and then pin it onto the side. Let's click on Folders, and it shows you exercise 1. It knows that this is where you're working. Okay, and here we have the import log. Well, that's an agreement there. We don't have this index folder, but we do have the database, which has now got a nice little symbol. If we click on that, there's nothing happening there. We click on the toolbox, nothing happening there. But we need data. We want to access our data. So how do we do this? What we need to do is we need to attach to these folders some our raw data folder. So add. So we right click on folders there. Right click, add folder connection. It then asks us which folder do we want to connect to, which is a highly relevant question. So we click on the Homes folder there. We go down to our document, click on SBG051. Now we could stop there, but let's just mark raw data as well. So now we have a connection to the raw data folder as well. Under our folders, we have a connection to the raw data. If we click on that, we can expand it, and there we see all of those folders again, the same ones that we could see if we go here, raw data. But what we don't see is this QGZ file, the QGIS file, because the catalog here doesn't recognize it, it ignores it. Whereas Explorer, the Windows File Explorer, says, yep, I can see that file there, that exists, I'm fine with this. Catalog is a little bit more picky. So now we've connected our raw data folder to our project. We've got rid of those two background maps. What might be a good idea now is to go up to save and just save our project. So now this connection to the raw data folder will be saved there. We can then not worry about losing that connection for this project. So now we go back to our instructions and we want to add some data to the project. And what we're going to do is we're going to add this ortho RGB. So if we go here and we click on catalog, and that is under the get folder because I downloaded the data from this get service. The data belongs to the Swedish Land Survey, but it was downloaded from get. I click on this here, and what I want, we can actually click further, we can click on that as well, and we can see that our RGB, give it a second, consists of 3 bands. But what we want is the RGB itself. Now I can either right click and add to current map, that works, or I can just drag it in. And give it a second. It's a big file, so it can take a while. While it's doing that, let's just go back to our instructions and have a look. So we're now going to explore some of the properties of this image once it's actually on the screen. And we'll just look through what information is available to us under properties. So now the image has been opened, and we can see that in this is a sort of a legend, if you like. And one of the problems we can see with this is that this legend, teckenförklaring, telling us what the image looks like, contains 3 nice symbols, and nowhere in this image can you see those colors. I mean, you can see combinations of those colors, but you will not see, or very, very unlikely in any aerial photograph or satellite image to see these colors. So when it comes to creating a legend where you actually see an aerial photograph, don't use these. Explain in text what it is that's being visualized, and you give the correct attribution. Who owns this data? In this case, the Swedish Land Survey, Lantmäteriet. But let's right click on there. We go down to Properties, down the bottom there. Click on Properties, and we get up this window here. And it tells us some general information, the name of the file. Click on Metadata, and it's hugely impressive. There is not anything in there at the moment. We can click on Source, and that tells us where the file has come from. Which location does the project file go to look for this file? We can click on raster information there, and that tells us the size of the raster, columns and rows, the number of bands, RGB in this case, 3 bands. There could be more bands in there. The cell size, 0.5 meter. This is in meters, even if it doesn't say so. Uncompressed size, that's the size of the image on the computer when it's uncompressed. Format, TIFF. And then we have pixel depth 8, so we have 256 levels of intensity in each of these colors. So lots of information. Band metadata, let's have a look. We don't really see much information there. Some files, when we download them from particular sources, there will be a lot more metadata included. Statistics. Statistics have not been calculated, it says. Extent, we can look here. This is the spatial extent in the reference system used. The spatial reference, click on that, go down here, and here we can see that it's SWIREF 99TM, which is a transverse Mercator projection, with this EPSG code of 3006. That is not the official name of the coordinate system, that's just a convenient code that can be used to find all the instructions for performing this particular projection. More on that later on in the course. So that's the coordinate system, and we can see that we do not have any statistics. Now I believe we are now going to calculate statistics. So the statistics describe the distribution of intensities in of pixels in the different bands. there are a fixed number of pixels, or the number of pixels in the image is the same in each band, but the strength of the color or the strength of the light varies by band and varies over the image, and we can make a statistical description of that to find out what the highest value is and the lowest value, what the average value is. So if we want to find some descriptive statistics, if we close the properties window, and right click on the RGB layer in the contents to select the symbology. So let's do that. We want to get up the symbology, and then we can start looking at some statistics that aren't there.